In the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, Jamal Carter's life, at 32, seemed to follow a predictable script, much like the tree-lined streets of the West End neighborhood where he spent most of his days. Jamal managed an electronics store on Lee Street, a small storefront filled with glowing TVs and shiny headphones that drew both locals and curious passers-by. He was a man of simple habits, the kind who preferred black coffee in the morning and a basketball game on TV at night. Known for his easy laugh that echoed through the store and his devotion to family, Jamal had a way of putting people at ease. Tall, with dark skin and broad shoulders, his warm presence won over customers who came in just to ask about prices and left as friends. He had a knack for remembering names and stories, which kept patrons returning, even if only to chat. Jamal lived in a modest second-floor apartment in an old brick building, its exposed walls and windows letting in the golden light of late afternoon. The space was small but carefully decorated with touches of his personality. Framed jazz posters of Miles Davis and John Coltrane adorned the living room walls, while photos of his mother, Evelyn, and younger sister, Aisha, were scattered across a bookshelf. Evelyn, a woman of unyielding strength, had raised them alone after her husband's death when Jamal was just 10. The photos captured happy moments. A young Jamal smiling in a baseball uniform, baby Aisha in her mother's arms, and Evelyn with her steady yet kind gaze at a church picnic. On Sundays, Jamal upheld the tradition of attending New Hope Baptist Church, a few blocks from home. He sang in the choir, his deep, melodious voice standing out in the gospel harmonies, a ritual carried from his teenage years, connecting him to his community and memories of his mother, who still sat in the front pew. In 2024, Jamal's life took on a new rhythm with the arrival of Sophia Thompson, a charismatic 28-year-old hairstylist working at a trendy downtown Atlanta salon. Sophia was the kind of person who seemed to carry sunlight with her. Her dark skin glowed naturally, and her wide smile, accented by a discreet lip piercing, could light up any room. At the salon, she was an artist, her skilled hands crafting hairstyles that blended traditional braids with modern touches like geometric lines and colorful accents. Clients left not just with new looks but with renewed confidence, thanks to Sophia's warm demeanor. Her Instagram, a vibrant mosaic of her work and life moments, boasted thousands of followers. She posted short videos of her creative process, set to R&B tracks, and replied to comments with heart emojis and kind messages. In quieter moments, Sophia dreamed of opening her own salon, a space reflecting her vision of beauty and community. Jamal and Sophia's relationship began on a warm spring afternoon at a music festival in Piedmont Park. The lawn was packed with families on blankets and friends dancing to a local band. Sophia, in a flowing yellow dress, danced with friends, her magnetic energy drawing eyes. Jamal, there with a co-worker, was captivated. Naturally shy outside the store where his manager role gave him confidence, something about Sophia's freedom spurred him to approach her. After an awkward, laughter-filled conversation, they exchanged numbers. Within months, they were inseparable. They spent evenings sharing plates of fried chicken and mac and cheese at Pascal's, an iconic Atlanta soul food restaurant with walls lined with photos of civil rights leaders. On weekends, they strolled the Atlanta Beltline, an urban trail connecting neighborhoods and parks, stopping for iced coffee or snapping photos against colorful murals. Friends noticed a subtle but significant change in Jamal. Once reserved about his feelings, he seemed lighter, more open. His laugh, previously restrained, came more freely, especially around Sophia. She spoke of him with overflowing affection, calling him my safe harbor, and joking that he was the only one who could keep up with her adventures. They balanced each other. Sophia brought spontaneity, Jamal stability. Together, they seemed to build something solid, a partnership that made sense in Atlanta's vibrant chaos. Yet, small, almost imperceptible details hinted that not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Despite her openness with clients and friends, Sophia avoided discussing her childhood, deflecting with a laugh or a funny salon story. All Jamal knew was that she grew up in Chicago, in a neighborhood she described as noisy but full of life, and moved to Atlanta at 20 for a fresh start. He respected her silence but sometimes wondered what she kept hidden. Jamal, too, carried his own layers. Raised under Evelyn's firm protection, he became responsible but also sought constant validation. He grew up hearing that a man must be strong, a provider, the family's pillar. After his father's death, Jamal took on the role of man of the house. Young, a weight he carried with quiet pride but which fed a need for control. He rarely spoke of it, but friends noticed in small ways, his irritation when plans went awry or his effort to appear flawless, even in vulnerability. In the fall of 2024, as Atlanta's oak leaves turned sidewalks red and gold, a subtle but noticeable shift altered the dynamic between Jamal and Sophia. The crisp air brought renewed energy to the city, with street festivals and the scent of roasted chestnuts in the West End, but in their relationship, tension began to brew like quiet storm clouds. Jamal, observant by nature, noticed Sophia kept parts of her life carefully guarded, like locked doors he wasn't allowed to open. She rarely invited him to her downtown loft, which he'd only glimpsed once while helping with groceries. She preferred meeting at his apartment, with its jazz posters and familiar coffee scent, or in public places like bustling cafes or parks where crowds offered distraction. When Jamal, out of natural curiosity, suggested meeting her family, Sophia skillfully dodged. "You're my family now," she'd say, flashing a smile that seemed genuine but didn't reach her eyes. Those eyes, usually so lively, grew distant in those moments, as if gazing at a horizon Jamal couldn't see. He noticed but hesitated to press, respecting her space, though discomfort grew in his chest. Transparency, shaped by years as the man of the house, without a father, was vital to him. Sharing life meant opening one's heart, but Sophia seemed to keep parts of herself in an untouchable box. On social media, Sophia was vibrant but controlled. Her Instagram, full of colorful photos of salon hairstyles, laughs with friends, or belt-line selfies, reflected the confident, creative persona she projected. But to Jamal, less active online and content with an old profile of basketball games and family gatherings, her posts began to feel like a curated storefront, showing only what she allowed the world to see. He noticed odd comments on her photos, messages from unknown profiles hinting at a past she never mentioned. One, from a profile called Chi-Town Memories, stood out. "You're still the same, right, eh?" The cryptic message carried familiarity that intrigued Jamal. Before he could ask, Sophia deleted it with a quick thumb swipe, her face impassive. He mentally noted the profile name, but didn't mention it then. Curiosity got the better of him one Friday night as they dined at a food truck in a lively West End square. The smell of fried fish tacos and spicy sauce filled the air, and music from a nearby speaker created a relaxed vibe. Seated at a picnic table under string lights, Jamal sipped lemonade and asked, masking unease with a casual tone, "Who's that Chi-Town Memories guy?" Sophia, fiddling with her phone, glanced up briefly. "Nobody important," she replied, her voice too light to be natural. "Just an old Chicago friend." Jamal tilted his head, waiting. "You never talk about Chicago," he pressed, curiosity mixing with frustration. "Because there's nothing to say." She cut in, her tone sharper, almost biting. She swiftly changed the subject, pointing to kids dancing near the truck. Reluctantly, Jamal let it go, but the exchange lingered like a tiny crack in glass, poised to grow. These rare tense moments began piling up like small stones on a once smooth path. Jamal, proud of his patience, felt growing unease, a sense that something was off. He wondered if Sophia was hiding something, though he didn't know what or why. Doubt gnawed at him in quiet moments, like driving home after work with the radio off, only the sound of tires on asphalt. Friends noticed a change. Marcus, a coworker at the electronics store, saw Jamal quieter, sometimes staring into space while shelving or serving customers. "You good, man?" Marcus asked once, organizing cables in the stockroom. Jamal shrugged, mumbling, "I'm fine," unconvincingly. Sophia, meanwhile, seemed to carry an inner weight that clashed with her outgoing facade. At the salon, she was the same Sophia, laughing loudly with clients, joking while braiding, dancing to Beyoncé blaring from speakers. Her hands moved precisely, creating artistic hairstyles, and her chatter kept the mood light. But in quiet moments, when the salon was empty or during lunch breaks, her eyes betrayed restlessness. She'd stare at an invisible point, as if weighed by an unshareable memory. Tanya, a co-worker, noticed something odd in October. Sophia took a call mid-client and stepped into the alley behind the salon. When she returned, her eyes were red, and she wiped her face with her sleeve. "You okay?" Tanya asked, concerned. "Just homesick," Sophia replied, forcing a smile. But Tanya, knowing her for 2 years, sensed more. She later told police. She came back different that day. Not just sad, like she was scared of something. In December 2024, with winter bringing a biting chill to Atlanta's streets and Christmas lights glowing in West End storefronts, Jamal decided to seek answers to the doubts tormenting him. Not naturally suspicious, his life had been guided by quiet trust in those around him, shaped by years in the tight-knit New Hope Baptist Church and strong family ties. The accumulation of mysterious signs in Sophia's behavior left him restless, like a missing puzzle piece. The feeling nagged at him on sleepless nights, staring at his apartment ceiling as distant Lee Street traffic hummed through the cracked window. Jamal revisited Sophia's social media, something he rarely did, preferring face-to-face talks or basketball on TV. Sitting on his couch with iced tea, he opened her Instagram on his laptop, scrolling through vibrant photos of hairstyles and happy moments. He noticed she followed few Chicago-linked profiles, the city she mentioned reluctantly. Posts before 2020 were scarce, as if she'd carefully erased parts of her digital past. Intrigued, he searched for Chi-Town Memories, the profile behind the cryptic comment months earlier. Frustratingly, it was deactivated, and the lack of leads fueled his curiosity. He tried other apps but found nothing, as if the account's owner had vanished online. Determined, Jamal turned to Marcus, who had Chicago family ties. During a work break, sorting charger boxes in the stockroom, Jamal broached it cautiously. "You got cousins in Chicago, right? Could they check something for me?" he asked, voice low, as if afraid of being overheard. Marcus raised an eyebrow, sensing Jamal's seriousness. Reluctantly, he agreed but warned. "Fine, I'll ask, but don't drag me into trouble, alright?" Joking to ease the tension. Days later, Marcus returned with vague info. Sophia Thompson, born 1996, seemed to have lived an ordinary Chicago life before Atlanta. A cousin who grew up in her neighborhood mentioned a faint rumor. "He said she was reserved in school, kept to a small friend group, nothing major." Marcus shrugged. The vague details reinforced Jamal's sense that Sophia was withholding something. Jamal began paying closer attention to their conversations, seeking clues between the lines. At Fox Brothers Barbecue, a rustic spot known for smoked ribs and a lively vibe, he casually probed her past. The aroma of barbecue sauce lingered, and laughter and clinking glasses created a relaxed setting. Between bites of brisket, Jamal asked with a light smile, "What were you like as a teen? Bet you were already killing it with braids." Sophia paused, eyes on her plate, before laughing. "I was a nerd, believe it or not. Always with books, dreaming of getting out," she said, but it sounded rehearsed, like a story to close the topic. Jamal noticed her grip tighten on her napkin, knuckles tense, a subtle sign of discomfort he didn't miss. He smiled back, but doubt dug deeper. A pivotal moment came one quiet night when Sophia left her phone on Jamal's apartment table while showering. It buzzed, the screen lighting up with a message from an unknown number. "You gonna tell him, or should I?" The brief words carried a veiled threat. Jamal's heart raced, guilt mixing with urgency to understand. When Sophia returned, hair wrapped in a towel and smiling carefree, he didn't mention it. But the words echoed in his mind, insistent. The unease drove him to something he was ashamed of, secretly following Sophia. Against his values, the need for answers outweighed guilt. One cold December night, he saw her leave the salon after hours and followed her to a small downtown cafe with brick walls and warm lights, popular with students and artists. Sophia met a woman Jamal didn't recognize. They spoke quietly, gestures restrained, seeming tense. Watching through the foggy window from across the street, Jamal saw Sophia wipe tears as she left 30 minutes later, his stomach tightening. He didn't confront her, but the image fed his doubts. The next day, Jamal visited Tanya at the salon during a slow lunch hour. Finding her cleaning her station, he asked, trying to sound casual despite his anxious tone. "You ever see her with a woman, like, not a client?" Tanya frowned, uneasy. After hesitating, she said, "She meets an out-of-town friend sometimes. Saw her twice, but don't know who." "I didn't ask." Pausing, she met Jamal's eyes. "Talk to her, Jamal. I don't know what's up, but she loves you. You can tell." Tanya's sincerity touched him but left him more confused. He thanked her and left, the weight of uncertainty heavier. On Christmas Eve 2024, as Atlanta glowed with festive lights and the air carried scents of pine and fresh cookies, Jamal made a heavy decision. Unable to live with the consuming doubts keeping him awake, he invited Sophia to the Sunset Motel, a discreet spot on the city's outskirts where the highway hummed and neon signs flickered red and blue. It was a simple place, away from West End's curious eyes, where they could talk uninterrupted. He wanted answers but feared what he'd find. His voice was steady when he invited her, but his eyes betrayed gnawing anxiety. Sophia agreed, though nervous, fidgeting with her necklace pendant, a habit Jamal knew signaled unease. In the motel room, the setting was modest, almost frozen in time. Faded floral wallpaper peeled at the edges, and an old TV with worn buttons sat on a chipped wooden dresser. A yellowish lamp cast soft shadows, and the air held a mix of disinfectant and faint mildew. Jamal and Sophia sat on the bed's edge, the mattress creaking. The initial silence was heavy, broken only by the distant hum of an old air conditioner. Jamal took a deep breath, heart racing, and went straight to the point. "Sophia, I know you're hiding something. Who's messaging you? What's going on?" His voice was firm but trembled with emotion, frustration, fear, and a love now tangled in doubt. Sophia stayed silent, eyes on the worn carpet, as if searching for words. Her hands, usually confident braiding hair, trembled in her lap. Then, with tears forming, she looked up and spoke, her voice low but heavy. "Jamal, I'm not who you think. I was born male. My name was Aaron. I transitioned at 18 but never told you because I was scared of losing you." Each word seemed to cost immense effort, as if she were tearing out a piece of herself. The silence that followed was deafening, as if time stopped in the small room. Jamal felt the ground collapse, a vertigo making him grip his knees for balance. His mind spun, unable to process. He loved Sophia, the vibrant woman who danced at Piedmont Park, laughed loudly at Pascal's, made him feel lighter than ever. But this truth shook everything, their relationship, who she was, who he was. He stood abruptly, heart pounding, pacing the narrow room, hands gripping his scalp. "Why did you lie? All this time, you lied." His voice rose louder than intended, raw with pain, betrayal, and confusion. Sophia, tears streaming, stood too, arms crossed as if shielding herself. "I didn't lie about who I am now," she pleaded, voice breaking but firm in conviction. "I'm Sophia, the woman who loves you. My past doesn't change that." Her red, tear-filled eyes sought his, begging for understanding. She stepped toward him but stopped as he recoiled, his shoulders tense. For Jamal, the revelation changed everything. Raised in an environment where masculinity was rigidly defined by Evelyn and the church, being a man meant strength, control, clarity. Being deceived, even unintentionally, felt like an affront, echoing lessons from youth when being the man of the house, after his father's death, demanded no weakness. His mind swirled, mixing love for Sophia with an unnamable sense of betrayal. Shame he wouldn't admit gnawed at him. What did this say about his own identity as a man? He stopped pacing, leaning against the wall, chest heaving, searching for words amid the emotional chaos. Sophia stood, face wet with tears, her posture blending vulnerability and resolve. She didn't look away, ready to face whatever came, however painful. The room, with its faded wallpaper and dim light, felt too small for the intensity of the moment. A confrontation exposing their deepest selves and what they meant to each other. On Christmas Eve, in the cramped Sunset Motel room, the argument between Jamal and Sophia escalated rapidly, turning the claustrophobic space into a stage for raw, uncontrollable emotions. The lamp's faint light cast flickering shadows on the walls, where faded floral wallpaper bore witness to their relationship's collapse. The old air conditioner's hum, mixed with muffled highway traffic, created an unsettling soundtrack, amplifying the tension filling every corner. Jamal, face twisted in pain and rage, paced, fists clenched, breathing heavily. His voice, now raised, cut the air. "You made me look like a fool! Did everyone know but me?" The words echoed, laced with humiliation and betrayal, feelings he couldn't contain, shaped by the rigid masculinity taught since childhood. Sophia, standing in the room's center, was both vulnerable and defiant. Her red, shining eyes fixed on Jamal, pleading for understanding she feared wouldn't come. "Nobody knew!" she shouted, voice breaking but fierce from years of carrying her secret. "I kept it to protect myself, because I knew you might react like this." Each word was a plea and an accusation, throwing back the shared pain. Her hands shook, arms crossed as if shielding herself from both Jamal and the truth now dividing them. The confrontation peaked in a moment of blind fury, when Jamal's whirlwind of love, confusion, and shame exploded into an act he never imagined committing. Overwhelmed by rage bigger than himself, he grabbed Sophia's shoulders, fingers digging into her skin. "You ruined everything!" he yelled, voice hoarse, eyes wide with desperation and disbelief. Sophia, scared, tried to break free, pushing his arms, but Jamal's emotion-fueled strength was overpowering. In an impulsive, unplanned instant, his hands moved to her throat, squeezing with an intensity he didn't recognize. Sophia fought, nails scratching his arms, face contorted in panic as she struggled to breathe. It lasted mere minutes, but enough for her body to go limp, collapsing onto the worn motel carpet. When Jamal realized what he'd done, the world seemed to crumble. The room's silence was heavier than any scream. He released her, hands shaking, and fell to his knees beside her, panic surging. "Sophia! Sophia, wake up!" he screamed, voice breaking, trying to revive her with clumsy chest presses, tears streaming. But it was too late. Her body stayed still, and the reality hit like a blow. He staggered back, heart racing, mind a chaos of guilt and horror. Then, unexpectedly, he noticed something in Sophia's jacket pocket, fallen beside her. With trembling hands, he pulled out a crumpled envelope, his name written in her careful handwriting. It was a letter, written by Sophia but never given. He tore it open, the sound piercing the room's silence. Through tear-blurred vision, Jamal read her words, likely written weeks or months earlier. The letter detailed her transition, from tough Chicago days as errand to becoming the woman she always knew she was at 18. She described her fear of telling the truth, terrified of losing Jamal, the only person who made her feel whole. "I love you, Jamal, more than you can imagine," it read, smudged in places as if she'd cried while writing. "I wish I'd had the courage to tell you sooner, but I didn't know how. I hope you can see me for who I am, not who I was." Reading the letter was a final, devastating blow. Jamal clutched it to his chest, body hunched, sobbing loudly as he looked at Sophia, lifeless on the floor. Guilt, love, and pain merged into an unbearable weight, and he felt he betrayed not just her but himself. The room, with its faded walls and incessant air conditioner hum, seemed to close in, a silent witness to a moment that changed everything. In the early hours of Christmas morning, at 2 a.m., Jamal, crushed by his actions, dialed the police with shaking hands. The motel room seemed to tighten around him as he spoke to the dispatcher, voice broken by guilt and despair. "I did something terrible," he said, words choked by sobs, barely coherent. He stayed on the floor beside Sophia's body, clutching her letter, now crumpled and tear-stained. When police sirens pierced the night and patrol cars screeched into the gravel lot, officers found Jamal as he'd described, sitting, eyes glassy, letter in hand. He didn't resist arrest, letting himself be cuffed, his face etched with consuming pain. The crime's news spread like wildfire in Atlanta, shocking the city, especially West End, where Jamal and Sophia were known. The electronics store became a hub of whispers, while Sophia's vibrant salon fell into heavy silence. The tight-knit community split. Some saw Jamal as a monster, unforgivable for killing a charismatic woman. Others, while not excusing murder, viewed him as a betrayed man caught in overwhelming emotion, shaped by rigid masculinity norms from youth. New Hope Baptist Church, where Jamal sang, became a stage for heated post-service debates, members torn between compassion and condemnation. Sophia's family, long kept at a distance, came from Chicago, bringing revelations. Her mother, Deborah, with kind but weary eyes, spoke to the press outside the motel, voice breaking. She shared that Sophia, even as a child, was a sensitive soul, struggling to find her place in an unaccepting world. Her transition at 18 was a courageous milestone but also isolating, as many family members didn't understand. She just wanted to be loved, Deborah said, wiping tears, holding an old photo of Sophia smiling. The police investigation was swift and precise. Physical evidence in the motel room was clear: purple marks on Sophia's neck, consistent with strangulation, and Jamal's fingerprints on her skin, and the scene confirmed the cause of death. The autopsy, done hours after police arrived, corroborated findings. In interrogation, Jamal confessed, describing the fury that led him to choke Sophia but insisting he hadn't planned to kill her. His defense, led by an experienced lawyer, argued it was a crime of passion, an impulsive act triggered by a shocking revelation and emotional pressure. The prosecution, however, framed it as a conscious choice, not an accident, noting Jamal had chances to stop. The case, in its early stages, promised to divide opinions as it headed to trial. In 2025, after a trial that gripped Atlanta, Jamal was sentenced to 25 years for second-degree murder. The packed courtroom, filled with journalists, West End residents, and families, was a stage for intense emotions. In his final statement, Jamal, voice breaking and face marked by sleepless nights, expressed regret that seemed genuine but couldn't undo the past. "I loved her. I don't know how I let this happen," he said, tears streaming, eyes on the floor. His words hung in the silent courtroom but didn't soften justice's weight. The judge, announcing the verdict, emphasized the act's severity, even acknowledging no premeditation. For many, the sentence brought closure but also lingering pain, a reminder that Sophia couldn't be brought back. Sophia and Jamal's story left Atlanta in deep reflection, resonating beyond West End. Widely covered by local media, the crime exposed complex issues of identity, acceptance, and rigid cultural norms. Sophia, striving to live authentically as the woman she was, paid the ultimate price for her secret, reflecting challenges faced by trans people in an often unaccepting world. Jamal became a symbol of toxic masculinity's devastating consequences, shaped by expectations of strength and control internalized young. In Atlanta's cafes, churches, and salons, people debated what could have been different. How did their love turn tragic? The salon where Sophia worked, once full of laughter and music, became a memorial space. A bronze plaque at the entrance bore her name and a simple phrase: "In honor of her light and courage." Clients and coworkers like Tanya shared stories of her generosity, how she transformed not just hair but confidence. Deborah, Sophia's mother, channeled her grief into action, founding the Sophia Thompson Foundation in Chicago to support young Black trans individuals with scholarships, counseling, and safe spaces. "I want my daughter's legacy to be hope," she said at a launch event, holding a photo of Sophia smiling at an Atlanta festival. Sophia's letter, read aloud in court by a prosecutor, became a powerful symbol of her humanity. Her words, "I love you, Jamal, more than you can imagine," moved listeners, many wiping tears. The letter, with its careful handwriting and ink smudges, reminded all that Sophia was more than her gender identity. She was a woman with dreams, fears, and deep love. For the community, it was a call to empathy, an invitation to see beyond appearances and understand hidden struggles. Ultimately, the Sunset Motel tragedy transcended a crime's narrative. It exposed what happens when fear, pride, and love collide in a world often unyielding to vulnerability. Deborah, in a poignant local interview, captured the loss's essence. "My daughter just wanted to be loved for who she was. And now, all that's left is silence." Her words, heavy with pain and truth, lingered over Atlanta, a reminder of the human cost of a society still grappling with accepting diversity in all its forms.